Good morning. This is the Blaine's World podcast, or we now call it a webcast, that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can get more information as well if you look at our website, which is behind me, and that's blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Mari Hashimoto, a violinist. And Mari, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. Okay, so that is Mari. And Mari Hashimoto is a passionate musician, as you'll see, and dedicated educator who finds boundless joy in playing the violin and viola. On mission to share transformative power of music, she captivates audiences with the performances and imparts the gift of musical appreciation to those she teaches. So the first question I always ask Mari is, as a child, you grew up where?
Oh, I grew up in South Carolina, in upstate South Carolina, in good old Gaffney.
Okay. And as a child growing up in South Carolina, did you always know you wanted to be a musician?
No, not really. um, my sister was playing the violin when I was growing up, and I just wanted to pick it up, and I would just kind of copy what she was doing. And so eventually, my parents got me this. Or actually, my dad cut out this styrofoam that was shaped like a violin, and he put sticks on it, and he got like this cylindrical stick as a bow, so I could hold it and use it on my fake violin.
How old were you?
Oh my gosh, like 6, 7, somewhere around there.
Do you still have that fake violin?
Yes, it's actually at my parents' place.
Oh, is that cool? And so you actually played it. So when did you get your first violin?
My first violin, honestly, was probably shortly after I played the fake violin. Maybe a couple months in, I can't really say. But it was really like it wasn't that long of a time before I got an actual violin, and it was a very tiny violin. It was this size. I think it was like a 16th size, which is like very very tiny. Yeah, compared to a full size as this. So it was like that size, probably. Yeah.
Now, at the time, was your sister also playing the violin, or does she still play the violin?
So I don't know if she's able to pick up these days, her violin, but she actually played the violin well into college and grad school. She majored in violin performance.
Okay. So what got you into it then? So you were imitating your sister, and you got your first violin, you were a young kid then, and you just kept playing ever since then?
Yeah, and I just had so much fun, and one of the things was that just being able to play with other people, playing duets, chamber ensemble, just string quartets of all sorts. I just enjoyed playing with other people. It was always so much fun. It was it was a way to connect with others and share this mutual love of music.
That's interesting you say that. So you actually preferred playing with other people than by yourself?
Mm-hmm. Which
Yeah.
is surprising because I do a lot of gigs by myself.
Yeah. But so you then were playing, did you play in school throughout your school years?
So I took private lessons all throughout. My community did not have an orchestra, so I actually went to the next town over to take violin lessons. But in middle school, I did start taking flute with the band, and I played flute well until after high school, a little after high school, and I still have it. And I occasionally pull it out, but not as much as my violin.
Well, then you also play, I understand, the viola as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And when did you start taking that up?
So viola was more of a recent thing. I started in grad school, around grad school, and it was I just love the sound of it. It's similar to a cello, and I just love cello. It's just I cello is such a uh, alien. Like it's just it's so alien to me because it's upside down. It's not played on your, on your shoulder. So I went for the viola, and I've loved it ever since then.
So the viola is played also on your shoulder?
Yes, it's just a little bit bigger. However, I have a little bit of a baby viola. You can kind of tell in the back that this is a little bit wider than the violin,
So
but normally they are much bigger.
how many violins do you have?
So I have this main one, and then I have a second backup violin just in case if something happens, and then I have a carbon composite violin for any outdoor gigs where a client might ask me to play by by a waterfall or even go hiking. So yeah, or even under hot weather during the summers.
And so what makes that different than the other violin?
So the carbon composite, it's able to. It's unlike the wooden instruments; they're not glued at the seams, and so with the wooden instruments, there's possibility of humidity destroying the wood, cracking eventually because it absorbs so much and it's dried out, and the glue can get unglued because of that heat and humidity. Whereas the carbon composite, is able to withstand any kind of weather and heat and humidity or cold, extreme temperatures.
And how many violas do you have?
Just one.
So I always wondered, for example, as a musician, so when did you start to decide you want to make a living out of this?
So I would say, honestly, when I entered college, I knew I wanted to make a living in music. It's just I didn't know how I was gonna do it. Yeah, I with my parents. My parents were telling me they wanted me to go. Like they weren't like supportive all the way, but they said if I were to do music, they wanted me to do education. So I went the music education route first, but I realized I wasn't really like meant for the classroom teaching. Like I like teaching and I still teach, but I do private lessons like one on one. Um, but yeah, I just kind of realized I loved just talking more about the violin or the viola versus, or the string instrument versus teaching, having to teach viola, violin, cello, and bass, to a classroom of students.
So do you remember your very first paid gig when somebody actually paid you to play the violin? Do you remember it?
I can't remember exactly which one it was, but I know it was a wedding. Um, I've played for a lot of weddings, and actually, that's how I got into this path. Was that in college, I got asked to play for gigs, whether it was for weddings or just some kind of party, and I just had so much fun playing with other people, or playing for other people, and in this festive atmosphere where everybody's just happy and excited, celebrating.
Because I'm surprised I'm looking behind you. I don't see a framed first check or something, your first
Oh,
$10 you ever got
yeah.
and somebody paid you. But that must sound pretty exciting when you realize that people actually pay you to play the violin
Mm-hmm.
and they still do.
Yes.
Wait, you mean I find this hard to believe, Murray. You don't play just for the exposure. You have the classic line
Not really.
musicians, right? Well, you can just, you're gonna reach a lot of people, get exposure. But people actually pay you now to play the violin. That's
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool. Do they pay you to play the viola?
Not at the moment, but I want to tell people and market the viola more, because it is a beautiful instrument. It's has just as a rich and beautiful, like this this you well you'll have to hear it in a second,
But
but yeah, it just has just as much of this beautiful singing voice as a cello, um, and it's not as some people find like the violin can be really high, that screechy sound, some people, but with a viola, it's just that this soothing singing voice, and it's just so lovely.
well, let me put you on the spot then. It's kind of interesting you mentioned it. So I was going to ask you to play the violin. I'd still like you to play the violin a sample,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never. if you'd be so kind, do you think you could play the same tune with the two different instruments? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Play something. I'll let you choose. Play something short, maybe. Where you can play the violin. And I'd like to see if I can hear the difference between
Mm-hmm.
the two, if you would.
Okay.
And tell me what you're gonna play.
Okay. How about Joy to the World?
Okay.
Yeah, let me make sure I have memorized, but hold on just a second. Okay, let me actually play a little bit higher.
Okay. Very nice. Joy to the world. And by the way, be grateful. I turned off my mic when you were playing. You didn't want to hear me singing along, so that was something. So this is now the same song on the viola.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, it's kind of transposing in my head.
Okay, no, very nice. So, in terms of playing, which is kind of exciting, you were telling me off the air that people actually in Nashville are going to get the chance to see you play a couple places. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Talk about some of your upcoming gigs.
Yeah, so tomorrow and every other Tuesday, all throughout until the new year, I'm going to be playing at the Asheville airport. So if you have friends or family coming in from out of town, they'll be able to hear me near the TSA gate. So
Okay.
in and
Oh,
out.
very nice. And so, what hours will you be playing there?
So right now between 11 and 1, maybe we might expand, I'm not sure, but that'll be the main times, 11 to 1 on Tuesdays
Okay, and
for
they'll be
every other
playing
Tuesday.
mostly Christmas music. Is that correct?
Christmas music, and actually, what's exciting is that they have an ASCAP license, so I'll be able to play any songs that's not just in the public domain, but covered under the ASCAP license. So I can play some like pop tunes. There's going to be some video game music. I know there are a couple people that really liked it last time I played there with that, and then there's some. Yeah, lots of great selections, honestly, and Christmas, obviously.
But the one thing you told me too, though, don't ask you to play rap. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So aside, you would tell me there's another place you're going to be playing in the area too, aside from the Asheville Airport. And where's that?
So I'm also playing at the on December 9th, Saturday, 12 through 4, at the Belk in the Asheville Mall.
Okay, 12/4. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And what date is again is that?
December 9th on a
Okay,
Saturday.
Saturday, December. What that's a what is that, a weekend?
Yes.
December,
Mm-hmm.
December 9th. Very exciting. Talk to me also about your gigs. So I know you mentioned you do weddings. What else? What other kind of things do you do?
So I play for open houses. So I'll work with realtor agents, so that we can have some great music for their open houses. I do parties, engagements, and house concerts, and my repertoire is just tailored to suit the atmosphere of each of those occasions. And I love collaborating with other musicians as well, like harpist Jessica Schaefer. I love working with. She's great. I'm currently collaborating with the Carolina Primrose Quartet as well, and we've been working to play more house concerts and other gatherings too, and maybe some corporate events.
And talk about the house concert. For some people who have never been to them or don't know what it is. What exactly
Yeah.
is a house concert?
So, a house concert is this intimate musical gathering. It's hosted in private homes. It's providing this unique and cozy setting for a live musical experience. There's this special connection between the performer and the audience because it's so close knit. Um, I've played for holiday music gatherings. Um, I've done, and actually, to keep in mind, house concert doesn't have to be at house. It's just at a house. It could be any intimate setting. And I've played for nursing homes and retirement communities. And one of my favorite performances I just remembered is actually at a retirement community. I gave a lecture concert, which is I still consider a house concert, but essentially the theme was a birthday celebration for Mozart. So it was in yeah, and it was in January, um, close to Mozart's birthday, and between basically what happened at this concert was that I gave some fun and historical facts about Mozart, and I just kind of put in an occasional music joke, and we just covered yeah, we just covered lots of different classical works by Mozart, what he did, and then I played samples with my violin, whether it was a violin concerto he wrote or um, some other orchestral works. I would just play familiar melodies and tunes from it.
Very cool. No, sounds like a lot of fun too. And
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
same old, same old. Let me ask you this too, as a professional musician, and some people may not want to hear what you're going to say, but do you still practice?
Yes. Always.
How how much do you practice?
Well, so when I was in college, it was a lot. It was minimum 3 hours. Yeah, a day was when I was in college because I was a performance major. And these days, honestly, because time is so so precious these days, I want to practice more. But I would say, with between teaching and performing, I try to get at least 2 or 3 hours per gig. Um, it doesn't always happen, but I usually just go for what's important, just make sure that I have everything together. And then during weeks where I don't have performances, I'll practice like some technical things, which we call scales and arpeggios. There's a song about that too. You must practice your scales and arpeggios from the Aristocats. but but yeah, but I try to kind of organize and plan how I'm going to practice too, or else it's just, I just lose track of time, or I won't end up having enough time to practice for an event.
So even when you don't have a gig coming up, you'll still be practicing?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's something I guess you'll be doing all your life,
Yeah, I think so. There's a famous cellist by the name of Pablo Casals. He's long past,
right?
but somebody asked him, "Hey, why do you keep practicing?" And he's well into his 70s or late 60s, and he tells them, "I think I'm getting better."
Oh. And so there's still hope for you. One to two, even though you've been playing for a couple of years here now, do you ever take lessons yourself or do you ever work with somebody to learn more?
Yeah, so actually, not recently, like this past year,
Right.
but um, I'd say like over a year ago, I took some viola lessons to just get, just make sure that um, I'm doing things correctly, like technically, because it's always nice to have somebody else tell you or see something that you don't notice. Um, and sometimes it's just because there are times, when you're playing and getting into it and, you're just on this one track mind or tunnel vision, you sometimes lose track or start building some bad habits you didn't notice before. And then it's great to have somebody just outside say, "Hey, I think you're doing this." And you're like, "Oh, yeah, I can fix that." Yeah.
You ever watch YouTube videos
Yes, I do actually.
of what other violin players?
Yeah. And actually, so depending on what I'm looking for, sometimes I'll just watch some other violinists performing a piece that I really love, and I'll just watch their bow arm and ask myself, okay, am I doing that? Oh, that's bad habit right there. Okay, I make sure I'm not gonna do that, kind of thing.
So that's interesting. So even a professional violinist, you can learn from other people what they're playing.
Oh, yes, definitely. Always.
And do you do that when you, like, for example, go to a concert? Do you look to see what the violin players are doing?
Yeah, I actually do. So, so I know my students always are like worried, oh, somebody's judging me. Well, like, I'm not judging. It's more like, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I take away? What can I share with other students or myself? And what can I learn from this? And I just love, seeing different ideas too. I'll listen to other professional musicians playing, and I'll ask myself, oh well, I didn't realize you could play it that way. Maybe I'll start adding that into my repertoire, things like that.
Well, you were mentioning to you off the air too, or what you like doing, you like arranging. And
Mm-hmm.
talk about what that process is.
Yeah, so usually for arranging, whenever I arrange music, it usually so it's based on a song that somebody's played or a well-known melody, and what I do is I usually listen to it a couple times, and then I'll try to figure out how to play it on my violin or viola, and then I'll write it down. I have this notation software on my computer called MuseScore. It's completely free, and I love using it for myself and my students. And I'll just start writing the melody down, and then from there, I ask myself, okay, so what kind of harmonies go with this, and then what kind of emotion am I trying to evoke? So if it's like a happy, energetic theme, maybe I should get like a really like um, energetic kind of sounding harmonies going on too. If I have other like parts, like other ensemble instrumentations in the music. But yeah, so I usually kind of play around with it to see what the possibilities are and what kind of mood I want to evoke.
Down the road, do you ever see yourself writing music?
Um, I've thought about it. I think I would love to. It's just what makes it hard is that because I've listened to so many songs and music, when you try to compose on your own, like actually compose, it feels like you're kind of stealing from other composers because you've heard somewhere, or maybe you thought this melody was yours, but then you reinvented somebody's song. Yeah, so I think um, maybe maybe for recreationally, I'll probably dive into that, but like at professionally composing, I'm not really sure, honestly.
Let me put you on the spot again based on something you just said. So you can now just use, if you want, the violin this time, but I'd like you to play something else, your choice. But what I'd like you to do, if you can, kind of play it as you arranged it. So it might be a typical song, but give your twist on it if you have something in
Okay.
mind.
Well, so it's not really like a huge twist, but I
Right.
like doing this with my students. So I'm gonna play Twinkle Twinkle. Okay, so
Okay.
as normal. Okay, and then I'll change it up a little bit.
I'd
Okay.
like to hear, by the way, this was the very first song you ever learned, or no?
Actually, yeah, it is. It's so my first song I learned was Twinkle Twinkle, but we call it pepperoni pizza variation.
Okay.
So 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 basically, Twinkle Twinkle sounds like this, right? So okay, so
Right.
with the pepperoni pizza, it's this. So you play pepperoni pizza. Yeah, so you would go. Okay, so but that was basically what I first learned when I was little. But so Twinkle Twinkle with my little twist to it is this. So it's sad, Twinkle.
No, I'm thinking that very, very sorrowful, but it really
Yeah.
was. Do you sometimes do that? You listen to music and say to yourself, "Self, I could do it differently," or "I'd like to play it differently." Yeah, that ever happen?
I have, honestly. I'll watch some or I'll hear something. I'm like, oh well, that'll probably sound really pretty on the violin versus on the piano, even though I can't play all those extra notes. But yeah, so sometimes I'll go through that and I'll listen. I'm like, oh, I really want to arrange that on the violin.
No, because just play that, and before you played it, I'm thinking, boy, I don't want to hear this again. It's Twinkle Twinkle, but the way you played it was beautiful. It's
Oh, thank
really
you.
nice. It almost brought tears to my eyes. The In terms of playing the violin, so you've been playing for a couple of years now. Do you have a most memorable experience you ever had playing the violin, or a unique experience had playing the violin?
I mean, honestly, there's been so many gigs and performance I've had that I love. The one that I always come back to and think about that I can just always vividly see. I had this gig or performance around college or right before I started grad school, and I think this really paved the way for the way I think about music. So I was called to play at a nursing home, and the person who requested me was the daughter of the woman in the nursing home. And when I got there, her mother wasn't able to speak too much. She was almost, honestly, she was almost not like unresponsive. Like she just didn't say much, or she didn't say anything. And the daughter wanted me to perform "You Are My Sunshine," and she said this song was really important to the family because her mother sang it to them, her grandchildren, and friends. And it was just a very important song for them. So when I visited, I played a couple of songs for the mother and the family, and I ended with "You Are My Sunshine." And the moment I played this song for her, she just perked up. She started asking what was going on. She was just talking more, and then they all started singing together, and it just I don't know, just being able to bring people together with that, the power of music and being able to share, joy with others is just, this is what makes it so, I guess, unique and like something that I absolutely love about music. And this performance I had at this nursing home was just I guess it was just very what's the word? It's basically it really paved the way for me for how I viewed music. I saw this more of like a connection with others and community versus, oh, I'm just a solo violinist and here I am playing this classical piece.
You have a videotape of that?
No, and the thing about yeah, I know. Most of the time, I try to keep perform private performances private. So unless I have like permission,
Right.
I don't really record and share like that. So
Because I'm saying that would be a great thing. Can you imagine on your website to
hmm
how you impacted this person's life? Murray, as we wind down here, just a couple other things. To recap again, if folks actually want to see you in person, which they can, best bet you have these two upcoming gigs. Where were they again?
so I am playing at the airport tomorrow, Tuesday, every other Tuesday. So until the new year,
And
and then
the time of that is what?
it's 11 to 1.
Okay. And you're going to be at Belk's when?
Belks at the Asheville Mill on December 9th, between 12 and 4.
Okay. In the meantime, if people want to get a hold of you, let's talk about, you can do a whole bunch of things. You can play at their wedding, engagement. A great idea. Give that educational concert, which was kind of a cool thing. Best way to track you down is how?
My website, violinmari.com. So that's VIOLINMARI.com.
And they'll find kind of things you do, and they'll also play. Will they find samples of your music there
Yes.
as well?
Mm-hmm. They'll be
Okay,
able to listen to some samples. There's actually a link on there to my Instagram as well as my YouTube, where they'll be able to see more selections.
okay. Hopefully, they'll be able to see this tape too. If they ever miss you, we will put it
Mm-hmm.
up there as well. And I guess lastly, if folks want to get in touch with you, they go to the website. Contact information. Best way to reach you is what?
So they can email me at Hashi dot Mari MARI dot music at gmail.com.
Okay, so they can reach you, or they can
Mm-hmm.
also reach you through the website as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to thank you, Mary, for being my guest on this Blaine's World webcast. I'd also like to thank my producer, Capitassetti. Hopefully, we'll again bump into you in the near future or at Asheville Mall or at Belk's. Mari, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you.